If you did, because they love doing this work and they would love to visit your hospital, we'd love to have them there. But you don't have to use JCI Consulting. You can use other consulting firms, you can do it all on your own. We'll talk about that in a minute. The current average fee for a hospital full survey is $49,000 US, not including travel and hotel for surveyors. Who says that's true? Who says that's false? Okay. Are you guys looking in the book? Yeah, okay, well that's true then, all right. Like one person out there, yes. All right, that's true. Your facility must be new to be able to meet the standards. Now that I know you're cheating, I'll just tell you that that is not true. It doesn't need to be new. We have facilities that are very, very old. My favorite story is we have a facility that's so old that the building predates sprinkler systems, fire arresting sprinkler systems. Can they meet the standards? Yes. They have to do much more work to make sure their organization is fire safe than you're going to have to do in a building that's more recent, but they can meet the standards. Okay, so your building does not have to be new. Let's talk about survey costs. Every organization will have a different survey fee, so there's no single number that we can give you to tell you how much your survey is going to cost. Larger and more complex organizations cost more money than simple organizations, smaller organizations. And the reason is, for a bigger organization, for a more complex organization, we need to spend more time in your organization to accurately assess it. So I'll give you kind of a graphical example here. If you plot cost along this axis and size and complexity along this axis, basically our costs look a little bit like this. Now, last year, our cheapest survey was $11,000. Okay, that's a very inexpensive survey of a very, very small healthcare facility. And our most expensive survey was $88,000. That's for a very, very large, very complex hospital. So that's the range of potential costs that you'd expect. Now, our average fee last year was $47,000. And you know I'm kind of fond of statistics, so I got to give you one standard deviation above and one standard deviation below. That's $60,000 to $33,000. So most of you, about 70% of organizations are going to fall right in this range, somewhere between $30,000 and $60,000. If you're a more complex organization, you're going to be on the higher end. If you're an organization that's going to require fewer surveyors for us to assess, that's going to be on the lower end. That gives you a sense. Now, you will know what your survey fee will be before the surveyors show up. When you apply for accreditation, they're going to take you through the profile that we've talked about, and that will tell our survey side, our accreditation side, how many surveyors and for how long those surveyors will be in your organization. And they will tell you what the fee will be. So you'll know in advance before you sign the contract, before you decide to move forward, what the cost will be. But expect it to be somewhere in that range for most hospitals. Okay, so the average survey fee is somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000 US. Now this doesn't include airfare, lodging, and other expenses. We try to keep those as low as possible by bringing surveyors to your organization from as close as possible as we can. So that fee is going to vary a little bit as well. This covers the cost of your initial survey. The good news about cost is that there is no additional fee in the 3-year term of your survey. So if your survey was $55,000 and it was this year and you paid it this year, next year, you're accredited, $0. Next year, $0. Then you have your triennial, and you have to pay your survey fee again. Okay? So when you think about this expense, that $50,000 expense, that's really the cost of your accreditation that's going to last 3 years. So whatever your survey fee is, think of it as a fee for a 3-year process. You kind of divide it by 3 in your case. You got to pay it all at once, but it's good for 3 years. Does that make sense? Okay. So the other type of expense that you're going to incur is the expense of preparing for accreditation. And JCI accreditation prep doesn't need to be expensive. There are many different ways in which you do this. Much of the work you're going to do is going to be involving developing new policies and procedures. And we're going to have a lecture about how you do that later in the week. Many of you are meeting many, if not most, of our standards right now. So when you look at that standards manual, and you look at the 287 standards, the 1,585 measurable elements, don't think that all of those things are brand new things you have to do. You are likely meeting quite a few of those standards and measurable elements today, right now. Which is why we recommend that organizations consider a baseline assessment to understand what are the areas that are going to need the most work, and what are the areas that we can leave alone because we're already doing a good job. So many of you are doing many of the things you need right now. Your preparation costs are going to vary by region, by the complexity of your organization, and by how ready you are for accreditation right now. We said that the average time to accreditation is 18 to 24 months. If you have a lot of work to do and it might take you a longer period of time, that's going to be more cost. So we can't, again, give you an exact figure that's going to apply to each organization at this moment. To understand how much your accreditation preparation work will cost, we have to know a lot more about each individual organization. But we can share with you what other organizations have done and the routes they have taken. There's this route, and this is the route that I'm sure all of us would want to take if money was no object, the expensive route. And if you have a lot of money in your organization and you're looking for some place to spend it, this is the way to do it. You can hire a quality director and a new quality department, hire outside consultants, bring in an architect and contractors to renovate your building, bring in a bunch of education programs, and you can tell the staff in your organization, don't worry about it, these external people are going to do much of the work for us. You just have to adopt the policies, procedures, and practices that they bring to us. How many of you want this route? All right, this is the easy way. I like that. You guys want to do the work? Good. This is, again, it's the easy way, but it's expensive, and very few organizations take this route because very few organizations can afford this. More organizations think about using what we think of as the moderate expense route. And here, you hire a quality director if you don't already have one. You bring in some outside consultants to help, but you bring in those consultants at critical points in the accreditation preparation process. So they don't live in your building. They're not there for the entire 2-year process of preparation. They just come in periodically to help you work on the things that you're struggling with. So you bring in someone to do that baseline assessment so you understand what standards you're currently meeting and which standards are going to need the most work. You bring in someone to do some technical assistance with you to help you figure out some of the persistent issues that you struggle with. And you bring in someone to do the mock survey about 6 months prior to your actual survey to let you know what are the last few things you need to fix. And this involves a moderate amount of internal staff work. And we actually like this route a little bit better than the expensive route because we think that the JCI improvements that you create in your organization are going to last longer if your staff was involved with developing. So if you have somebody outside of your organization come in and say, this is what you're going to do, your staff might do them for the survey, but are they going to do them 3 months after the survey, 6 months, 9 months? We want your staff to feel some level of ownership. So the moderate expense route in some ways is better than the very expensive route. There's the inexpensive route. So if you're trying to save a little more money, then maybe you just use minimal